Ma'am, you can wait outside. The clients don't need distractions. Those words sliced through the lobby air like a blade. It was 9:30 on a Monday morning in downtown Atlanta, and the marble floors of the Ross & Co. tower gleamed like mirrors. Behind the reception desk, two employees stood shoulder to shoulder, watching the black woman in a gray blazer who had just walked in. One of them smirked, the other pointed toward the glass doors. They didn't ask her name. They didn't even look at her badge. They just assumed she didn't belong. Danielle Ross didn't argue. She stood still, her posture calm, her eyes sharp, like someone taking notes at a crime scene that hadn't realized it was one yet. The lobby cameras blinked quietly above her head. Somewhere in the distance, the elevator chimed. The receptionist repeated herself, louder this time. "You can wait outside, ma'am. This area's for clients only." "Oh." Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Danielle. She smiled once, faintly, like someone hearing a punchline before everyone else. Her ID badge, tucked under the lapel of her blazer, bore three small words no one had bothered to read: Chief Executive Officer. But she wasn't here to flash titles. She was here to see who her company really was when it thought no one important was watching. The receptionist crossed her arms. "Ma'am, you're still here?" Behind him, a junior intern looked up from his tablet, uneasy, sensing something wrong. Danielle's tone stayed even. "I have a meeting on the 21st floor." The man laughed under his breath. "You and every job applicant in the city. The door's right there." A moment stretched between them, long enough for everyone in the lobby to feel it, that quiet, electric discomfort when arrogance meets its mirror. Danielle glanced once at the logo behind the desk, the company she built from the ground up, and said softly, "I am exactly where I need to be." The man blinked, confused, not realizing that in 3 minutes, his access badge, his job, and his certainty about who mattered in this building would all disappear. The security guard leaned on the polished desk, glancing at Danielle's shoes like they were proof of something. Simple black flats, no logo, no shine. "You heard him," he said. "Please step outside until your appointment is confirmed." His voice was professional enough to sound polite, but not enough to hide the bias that clung to every syllable. Daniela didn't move. Her hands rested at her sides, calm, steady, controlled. Around her, the morning rhythm of the lobby continued, heels clicking on tile, elevator dings echoing through glass, the faint hum of a coffee machine nearby. Every detail felt rehearsed, except the way people were looking at her as if she had wandered into a world that didn't expect her to exist. "Ma'am, you are blocking the view," the receptionist added, his tone sharpening. "Clients are arriving soon." He gestured toward the door again, like that glass threshold was a border she wasn't allowed to cross. Danielle tilted her head slightly, studying the man's nameplate. Ryan. She repeated it once in her mind, storing it quietly. Ryan had no idea that the person he was dismissing signed his paychecks. No idea that every polished surface in this lobby, the desk, the floor, even the elevator panel had been approved by her during construction. Her voice was even when she finally spoke. "I said I have a meeting on the 21st floor." Ryan sighed, pretending to type something into his system. "What company?" he asked. "Ross & Company," she replied. He chuckled without looking up. "That office doesn't take walk-ins." A few feet away, a young woman carrying a laptop paused. She was maybe 22, an intern judging by her ID badge. Her eyes moved between Danielle and the staff, uncertainty spreading across her face. She didn't know what to do, but she knew what she was seeing was wrong. "Security's on standby," the guard murmured to Ryan, low enough to sound discreet but loud enough for Danielle to hear. "We can move her outside if needed." The intern's fingers trembled as she unlocked her phone. The red circle of the camera app glowed in the reflection of the glass. She started recording, quietly, from the corner of the room. Danielle noticed, and for the first time, her eyes softened. Not pity awareness. The world was always watching, even when justice had to start in whispers. Behind the desk, Ryan looked up again, impatience now fully visible. "Ma'am, if you do not cooperate, I will have to call management." Danielle's answer came like a verdict. "Good. Let us do that." He blinked, thrown off by the composure in her voice. But before he could reply, the elevator doors opened with a soft chime. A pair of executives stepped out, mid-conversation, holding tablets and coffee cups. One of them stopped mid-sentence, eyes widening as they recognized her. "Miss Ross?" he breathed. The sound of her name hit the air like thunder wrapped in silk. The receptionist's smile froze. The guard straightened, confused. The intern's camera caught every second of silence that followed the moment the hierarchy flipped without a single shout. Danielle turned slowly toward them, her calm unbroken. "I told you," she said, her voice smooth, unhurried. "I have a meeting on the 21st floor." The taller executive stepped forward, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm. "Miss Ross, I did not realize you were coming in today," he said quickly, the words tumbling out like he was trying to rewind what had already happened. Danielle offered a faint, polite nod, but her eyes stayed fixed on the receptionist. Ryan's hands froze above his keyboard. "Miss Ross?" he echoed, almost whispering, as if saying her name too loudly might make it true. The guard took a single step back, glancing between them. The intern's phone trembled slightly in her hand, the red recording light still glowing. "I was told to wait outside," Danielle said evenly. Her tone was not angry. It was surgical. Each word landed clean, cutting through the air with a precision no volume could match. "Apparently, I was a distraction to the clients." Silence filled the lobby. The second executive, a woman in her 40s with a navy suit and a nervous smile, stepped closer. "I am so sorry for the misunderstanding," she said, her voice quick and tight. "Ryan, why on earth did you—" Ryan stammered. "I thought I did not know." "That is the point," Danielle interrupted gently. "You did not know. You just assumed." Her gaze moved from Ryan to the guard, steady, unreadable. "And you agreed without question." The guard swallowed hard. "Ma'am, I was just following protocol." Danielle raised an eyebrow. "Whose protocol tells you to send someone outside before you learn who they are?" The intern's eyes flicked from face to face. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to speak. Danielle turned slightly toward her and gave a small nod permission, unspoken but powerful. The young woman cleared her throat. "Miss Ross, I saw everything. They did not check your badge or ask your name. They just—" Her voice wavered. "They just decided." The executive in the navy suit exhaled sharply. "Enough," she said, turning to the staff. "Do you understand what you have just done?" Danielle lifted a hand, stopping her. "No. Let them speak. Let them explain why they thought a black woman standing in her own lobby must be waiting for someone else." Ryan's mouth opened, then closed again. The guard shifted uneasily. No one answered. Danielle took a single step closer to the desk. "When I built this company, I told every department that respect is not negotiable. It is the first rule. And yet, here I am being told to wait outside my own door." Her words were quiet but resonant, the kind that linger long after they are spoken. She turned toward the executives, her calm never slipping. "Do not apologize for them," she said softly. "Accountability speaks louder." The woman in the navy suit nodded slowly, understanding. The elevator doors behind them chimed again, another sound of precision and timing. Danielle glanced at her watch. 3 minutes, she murmured. That is all it took. The receptionist finally whispered, "Miss Ross, I am truly sorry. I did not mean—" She cut him off with a small, almost kind smile. "You never mean it, that is the problem." The camera light still glowed red. Somewhere in the background, a client entering the building stopped to watch. Danielle turned toward the staff one final time and said quietly, "You wanted me to wait outside, but now it is you who will step out." Ryan's face had gone pale, like the color itself had decided to leave before he could explain. The guard shifted his stance, suddenly unsure if he should salute or disappear. Danielle stood at the center of the lobby, a calm force wrapped in gray wool and quiet power. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. The silence was working for her. "Miss Ross," the woman in the navy suit began carefully, "perhaps we should move this conversation upstairs." Danielle shook her head slowly. "No, this is where it happened. This is where it stays." Her tone was firm, almost tender in its control. When prejudice shows itself in public, correction belongs in public too. Ryan's mouth moved, but no words came. He stared at the floor like he could find a version of himself that hadn't just told his CEO to wait outside. Danielle turned slightly, scanning the room. "Who else was here when this occurred?" A few employees by the coffee bar froze mid-sip. A janitor quietly turned away. The intern stepped forward, her small voice breaking through the stillness. "I was," she said, and a few others heard it too. Danielle nodded once. Then we all learned together. Her phone buzzed softly in her blazer pocket. She tapped her earpiece. "Yes, I am ready," she said. The voice on the other end was calm, crisp, familiar. Her assistant, Maya. "Protocol verification confirmed," Maya said. "Would you like me to initiate the audit sequence?" "Not yet," Danielle replied. "Just keep the line open." The executives exchanged uneasy glances. Ryan's fingers twitched near his keyboard, desperate for something to do. "Tell me, Ryan," Danielle said, her tone almost conversational. "When you saw me walk in, what exactly did you see?" Ryan blinked rapidly. I saw someone I did not recognize. And that was enough to decide I did not belong?" He hesitated. "We have had people pretending to have meetings before. I was just being cautious." Danielle stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking to only a few feet. "Caution and bias look the same when you hide behind manners," she said. "The difference is what happens after you realize the mistake." Behind her, the intern's camera caught every word, every shift of expression. The lobby air felt charged now, thicker, heavier. The woman in the navy suit spoke again, her voice lower. "Miss Ross, we will review the staff conduct and—" "Review it?" Danielle interrupted softly. "You are standing inside the review." She turned toward the glass doors where the morning sun spilled through like a spotlight. The same door they had told her to wait beyond. The same space they had marked as outside. She walked to it, stopped just before the threshold, and looked back at them. "Outside," she said, letting the word linger. "That is where you sent me." She paused, then added, "and where you almost sent this company's integrity." The words hung in the air like a judgment. Danielle faced the assistant through her earpiece again. "Maya," she said quietly, "prepare the internal log for staff correction. Timestamp 9:37. "Yes, Miss Ross," Maya replied. Then Danielle turned back to the lobby, her expression calm, her voice steady as stone. "I am not here to humiliate anyone," she said, "but I am here to remind everyone what respect looks like and what it costs when it is ignored." No one dared to speak. The only sound was the hum of the building she had built, a structure that remembered her name, even when her staff chose to forget. The quiet in the lobby had weight now, pressing against the glass and the walls as if the building itself could feel what was happening. Danielle stood still, centered, her reflection sharp in the marble floor. For a moment, no one moved. Then a voice from the far corner broke the silence. "Should I stop recording?" the intern asked softly. Danielle turned her head, her tone even but gentle. "No, keep it rolling. We do not erase truth." The young woman nodded quickly, her hand steadying as she held the phone upright again. A couple of clients had walked in by then, sensing tension but not yet understanding the story they were stepping into. They stopped near the entry, eyes darting between the staff and the woman who somehow commanded the entire room without raising her voice. Danielle's assistant Maya spoke through the earpiece, her tone crisp. "The compliance department is online, Miss Ross. They can observe if you wish." "Not yet," Danielle replied quietly. "Let them watch, not interfere." Across from her, Ryan finally lifted his gaze. "Miss Ross," he began, "I swear I did not mean—" Danielle raised one hand. "Do not say you did not mean it. You meant it enough to act on it. You believed what you saw more than what you could have known." Her words struck like clean thunder, controlled, direct, and impossible to deny. The guard shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, I was just following instructions." Whose instructions?" she asked. "Did anyone here tell you to profile guests, or was that a rule you invented to make yourself feel in control?" The man had no answer. He looked at the floor. Danielle took a small breath and looked at the interns, the assistants, the quiet onlookers now pretending to check emails. "This," she said, "is how bias breathes not through shouting, but through silence. Everyone sees it. No one interrupts it." The intern's camera trembled as her voice cracked. "I wanted to say something, but I was scared." Danielle nodded slightly. "Fear is how injustice stays comfortable. But courage is contagious, and you just caught it." A whisper ran through the crowd. One of the clients near the doorway, a middle-aged woman in a cream coat, spoke up. "She told you to wait outside? You said that to her?" The disbelief in her tone carried across the marble floor. Ryan looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him. I did not know who she was." "Then maybe start treating everyone like they could be someone," the woman replied firmly. Danielle met the woman's eyes, her expression softening. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That is the culture we promised to build." Maya's voice came through again, calm and professional. "Miss Ross, internal security is requesting clarification on access control for the front desk team." "Oh." Danielle's answer was calm but final. "They will be removed, not because I am angry, but because culture starts at the door, and they just locked it on the wrong person." The receptionist's shoulders dropped. The guard exhaled, defeated. The intern's camera kept recording, capturing the moment accountability met composure. Danielle turned once more toward the front desk, her tone measured but filled with purpose. "Let this moment travel. Let it reach every branch, every floor, every mind that still believes power has a color or a costume. It does not. It has presence, and it remembers." No one replied. The only sound was the quiet click of the clock behind the reception desk, counting down the last seconds before justice finished walking through its own front door. The elevator chimed again, a soft metallic note that seemed to punctuate the tension in the room. From inside stepped two more employees, the floor manager, Olivia Grant, and a marketing director named Paul Harrison. They were laughing about something, mid-conversation, until they noticed the scene. The laughter died instantly. Olivia froze, her eyes landing on Danielle. It took only a second for recognition to wash across her face. "Miss Ross," she whispered. "Oh my God." "Oh." Paul straightened his tie and muttered, "What is going on down here?" The receptionist stammered, There was a misunderstanding." Danielle turned slowly, her gaze calm but heavy with purpose. "Yes," she said, "a misunderstanding that cost you more than you realize." Olivia's face turned pale as she looked around the lobby, the stunned clients, the silent guard, the young intern still filming from her phone. The reality of the moment settled like fog. Everyone knew this was no longer a private mistake. It was a public reckoning. Danielle stepped closer to the desk. Her voice stayed level. "Who authorized the statement that I was not allowed in my own building?" Ryan opened his mouth, but Olivia cut him off, panic sharp in her tone. "Nobody authorized that, Miss Ross. This is not how we train our staff. I can assure you this will be corrected immediately." Danielle's expression did not soften. "Corrected," she repeated slowly. "You do not correct discrimination with memos, Olivia. You correct it with accountability." Paul glanced between them, his jaw tightening. "Maybe we should take this conversation to a conference room, away from the clients." Danielle turned toward him. "The clients are not the problem," she said. "They are witnesses." A few people near the lobby windows nodded quietly, their phones now raised. The story had become larger than the building itself. "Miss Ross." Maya's voice came through the earpiece again, low and composed. "Corporate counsel has joined the call. They are monitoring the live feed. Do you wish to proceed with disciplinary command?" Danielle looked directly at the receptionist and the guard. "Not yet," she said. "I want to hear their reasoning first. Let us make sure the lesson is documented in full." Ryan's throat bobbed as he swallowed. "I was trying to protect the company," he muttered. "We have had people walk in here pretending to be clients." "So you decided anyone who looked like me must be pretending?" Danielle's question was quiet, but it hit like a hammer. Ryan said nothing. Danielle looked around the room, then back at the staff. "Do you know what the most expensive mistake in a company is?" she asked. "It is not a bad investment. It is bad judgment, especially when it hides behind policy." "Oh." The intern, standing near the edge of the frame, whispered softly to herself. "This feels historic." Danielle heard her. "It is not history," she said gently. "It is a mirror." The clock above the reception desk ticked once. The weight of her words filled the space. Even the hum of the air conditioning seemed to fade. "Olivia," Danielle said finally, "you are the floor manager. Tell me what happens when leadership looks away while bias grows roots in the lobby." Olivia hesitated. "It spreads," she said quietly. "Exactly," Danielle replied. "And today, we cut it out." Maya's voice returned through the earpiece. "Understood, Miss Ross. Awaiting your confirmation for the protocol command." Danielle straightened her blazer, her calm composure unwavering. "Prepare to lock the accounts," she said softly, "but let them hear it first." Then she turned back to the trembling staff behind the desk. "3 minutes ago, you told me to wait outside," she said. "Now you will wait to see what accountability looks like from the inside." The tension in the lobby no longer felt invisible. It pulsed, steady and alive, the kind of energy that made even air seem to hold its breath. Danielle stood still, framed by the golden morning light pouring through the glass doors. Every person in that lobby understood the balance of power had shifted, and none of them knew what would happen next. "Miss Ross, please," Olivia said, her voice trembling now. "Let me handle this internally. They did not know who you were." Danielle's gaze never left the receptionist. "And that is the tragedy," she said quietly. "You should not have to know who I am to treat me with dignity." Ryan looked down, fingers twisting nervously against the edge of the desk. "I am sorry," he whispered. "It will never happen again." Danielle's tone was calm, but her words struck like a verdict. "You are right about one thing, Ryan. It will never happen again." Ugh. Paul took a hesitant step forward. "Miss Ross, maybe we can—" "Stop," Danielle said, cutting him off with one word that carried the weight of leadership. "You are not here to fix what you refuse to see. You are here to listen." The intern's camera caught everything, the stillness, the fear, the flicker of realization crossing every face. She zoomed in slightly, her breath audible on the recording. Danielle turned toward the guard. "When you stood there and told me to leave, what made you so certain I did not belong?" The guard swallowed hard. "You did not look like someone who would be meeting upstairs." Danielle tilted her head slightly. "Someone like what?" The question hung in the air, sharp and deliberate. He tried to find words, but found only silence. "Exactly," Danielle said softly. "You could not even finish the sentence because you already know what it says about you." A murmur rippled through the small crowd that had gathered. The clients near the door exchanged glances, the truth of the moment too clear to ignore. Danielle tapped her earpiece. "Maya, record the following statement for corporate ethics. I am initiating disciplinary review for biased conduct by lobby personnel. Timestamp 9:42. Maya's voice came through, calm as always. "Confirmed, Miss Ross." Ryan's voice cracked. "Miss Ross, please, I need this job. My family." Danielle raised her hand again, not in cruelty, but in finality. "Your family will understand that actions have consequences. Mine had to understand it every time bias tried to tell me where I did not belong." The lobby went silent again, every sound absorbed by marble and shame. Then, unexpectedly, the woman in the cream coat spoke up from near the entrance. "Miss Ross," she said softly, "thank you. People need to see this happen." "Oh." Danielle turned to her, nodding with quiet gratitude. "They do," she said, "because change does not start in boardrooms. It starts at front desks." She faced her staff one last time, her tone steady, unwavering. "You all built your comfort on the assumption that power looks a certain way. Today, that illusion ends. What you saw as ordinary bias, I see as a system that needs dismantling." Olivia exhaled shakily, tears threatening at the edges of her eyes. "Miss Ross," she said, "what will you do now?" Danielle took a breath, calm and measured. "Exactly what I came here to do," she answered. "Hold people accountable." Then she gave a quiet command to her assistant. "Maya, begin Phase 2. "Phase 2 confirmed," Maya said through the earpiece. "All access terminals for the lobby staff are being locked." The receptionist's screen went dark. The guard's keycard reader blinked red. The message appeared in the system. "Access revoked by corporate protocol." Danielle did not move. She simply said, "3 minutes ago you asked me to leave. Now you may step outside." The reversal was clean, elegant, and absolute justice delivered without noise, only presence. The sound of the keycard reader clicking red filled the lobby with a kind of stillness that was heavier than any shout. Ryan stared at his darkened monitor, fingers frozen above the keyboard as if still expecting it to come back to life. The guard looked down at the badge clipped to his vest, the small red light blinking steadily, a quiet symbol of consequence. Danielle did not smile. She was not here for revenge. She was here for revelation. Her voice came low but clear. "That sound you hear is not punishment. It is correction." Olivia took a cautious step forward, her tone careful and pleading. "Miss Ross, please, these are good people. They made a mistake." Danielle turned her head slightly toward her, eyes calm but firm. "A mistake is leaving the lights on overnight. What happened here was a decision. They saw someone who did not fit their image of authority and decided she did not belong. That is not ignorance. That is conditioning." The intern kept recording, her camera angled to capture every face, the pale shock of Ryan, the defeated slump of the guard, the uneasy compassion of Olivia. She knew, even as she filmed, that this moment would echo far beyond the walls of this lobby. Paul shifted uncomfortably, breaking the silence. "Miss Ross, corporate will want a full report. Perhaps we can frame this as a training opportunity." "This is not training," Danielle interrupted, her tone steady as steel. "This is testimony. It will be logged, reviewed, and used to build a standard that leaves no room for this kind of blindness." Maya's voice spoke through the earpiece, calm and procedural. "Phase 2 complete. All access credentials for the front desk unit have been suspended. Would you like to initiate communication to the wider company?" "Yes," Danielle said. "Send a message to all department heads. Respect is not optional. It is the minimum standard for entry." "Message sent," Maya replied. The receptionist's lip trembled as he whispered, "Miss Ross, please, I will take any corrective course. I will attend any training. I will—" Danielle's voice softened slightly, not from sympathy but from clarity. "Ryan, you cannot train integrity. You must decide to have it before you ever speak." Her words lingered, the kind that did not echo because they did not need to. From behind, the sound of a door opening drew every head. A young delivery worker stood there, holding a box labeled Ross and Company Executive Floor. He froze, sensing the tension but not understanding its source. Danielle turned to him, her tone instantly kind. "Good morning," she said warmly. "You may set that here." He nodded quickly and placed the box on the counter. She smiled gently. "Thank you. You see," she said, glancing back at the stunned staff, "respect costs nothing, and yet it changes everything." The delivery worker left, looking back once with quiet awe. Danielle faced her assistant again through the earpiece. "Maya, verify that Human Resources has received the footage from the security cameras." "Confirmed," Maya replied. "Internal servers have archived both lobby audio and visual feeds. Would you like public relations to prepare a statement?" "No statement," Danielle said. "Truth does not need press. It needs presence." The clients near the door exchanged glances, one of them murmuring, "She's incredible." Another whispered, "That's leadership." Danielle looked around the lobby one final time, the marble floor reflecting the steadiness in her eyes. "Every person in this room just learned something vital," she said. "Power is not what you hold. It is how you use silence until it becomes structure." She paused, letting the moment breathe, then added softly, "And today, silence ends here." No one dared move. The only sound that followed was the steady hum of the building systems rebooting, symbolic, mechanical, and perfectly timed. The company had reset, starting with its soul. The air in the lobby grew still again, heavy with realization. Danielle's calm presence filled every corner, her authority quiet but absolute. The staff who had mocked her minutes ago now stood frozen in disbelief. The light from the tall glass doors caught the edge of her gray blazer, giving her an almost ethereal glow, not the glow of anger, but of control. "Let us be clear," she said, voice measured. "This is not about punishment. It is about principle. Respect cannot exist only when convenient." Ryan lowered his head, his voice trembling. "Miss Ross, I never meant—" Danielle raised a hand, cutting him off. "You meant enough to act. You chose to decide who belonged in a building you did not build. Now you will live with that choice." Behind her, the elevator opened, and Louis Carter, chairman of the board, stepped out with two senior executives. His tone was grave. "Danielle, we have seen the footage. The board supports your decision." "Good," she said evenly. "Then proceed." Louis turned to the trembling employees. "Effective immediately, your access and credentials are revoked. Security will escort you to Human Resources." Olivia gasped, her face paling. "All of us?" Danielle's gaze met hers. "Every person who let silence become approval." The guard's radio crackled. Two security officers approached quietly, respectful but firm. Ryan's monitor went black. His badge blinked red. The sound echoed like a final judgment. Danielle turned to the watching clients. "This is what accountability looks like, not because of who I am, but because of what this company stands for." Louis nodded. "Terminations confirmed, Miss Ross." Danielle gave a single nod. "Then let it be recorded." She faced the staff one last time. "You told me to wait outside," she said, voice low but resonant. "Now you will step out not as a punishment, but as a reminder of what happens when prejudice forgets who it is speaking to." The security officers guided the staff toward the elevators. Danielle did not look away. The lobby had changed not just its tone, but its truth. For the first time, it felt like her building again. The elevator doors closed with a soft metallic sound that carried finality. The reflection of the departing staff shimmered briefly against the glass before disappearing from view. A long, reverent silence followed, broken only by the distant hum of the air vents and the muffled rhythm of traffic outside. Danielle stood still at the center of the lobby, her expression composed yet contemplative, her calm presence filling the space they had vacated. Louis Carter remained beside her, arms crossed loosely. "It is done," he said quietly. "Human resources will handle the next steps." Danielle nodded, eyes still fixed on the elevator doors. "Good, but this is not an ending. It is a correction." Her voice carried no bitterness. It was steady, like someone who had learned the difference between vengeance and justice a long time ago. She turned toward the remaining staff, the interns, assistants, and maintenance crew who had stood silently during the confrontation. "What you saw today is not a spectacle," she said. "It is a reminder of what silence costs. Every time you watch prejudice unfold and say nothing, you help it grow." The young intern lowered her phone, her eyes wide but filled with respect. "Miss Ross," she said softly, "you changed the way I see this place." Danielle gave a faint smile. "Then that is where rebuilding begins." Maya's voice came through the earpiece, precise as always. "Miss Ross, company communications has acknowledged the event. The message has reached all branches." Danielle replied, "Then ensure it stays unedited. The truth does not need polish." Louis exhaled. "There will be questions. Some will call it too harsh." She turned to him, her gaze unwavering. "Then they can question me directly. I will not defend fairness. I will demonstrate it." Her eyes shifted to the intern again, who still stood by the desk, uncertain but strong. "What is your name?" "Leah," she answered. "Leah," Danielle said, "today you did something brave. You recorded the truth when it was easier to stay silent. That is the kind of courage I want representing this company. Starting today, you are the new front desk coordinator." The girl blinked, stunned. "Me? I do not even know if I am ready." "No one ever is," Danielle replied. "But integrity prepares you better than experience ever will." Louis smiled faintly, watching the exchange. "That is a bold move." "Boldness built this company," Danielle said simply. A small wave of applause came from a few of the employees who had gathered near the edges of the lobby. It was not loud, but it was genuine. For the first time that morning, the space felt lighter not because the problem was gone, but because truth had oxygen again. Danielle looked around the room one last time. The sun filtered through the tall glass panes, painting gold across the marble floor. "This building does not need new furniture or brighter lights," she said. "It needs people who understand that respect is the foundation. Without that, every wall we build will eventually fall." She turned toward Louis. "Reinforce this moment in every training, every orientation, every policy. I do not want this lesson to fade when the headlines do." "Oh," he nodded solemnly. "It will be done." Danielle glanced at the doors where sunlight waited beyond the glass. "Good. Then let us make this the last time anyone in this building mistakes humility for weakness." Her heels clicked softly as she began to walk toward the exit. Every head turned, every silence followed, as if the whole building itself understood leadership had just rewritten its definition. Danielle paused before the glass doors, her reflection framed in morning light. Behind her, the lobby stood silent, the same space that had dismissed her now humbled by truth. She turned slowly, her voice calm but commanding. This was never about anger. It was about clarity. Dignity does not beg to be seen. It stands its ground until it is. Every face turned toward her, still processing what had unfolded. "What happened here," she continued, "is what happens when respect becomes conditional. We do not correct that with memos. We correct it with courage." Her eyes found Leah at the front desk. "You saw something wrong and you acted. That is what leadership looks like before it has a title." Leah's voice shook. "Thank you, Miss Ross." Danielle nodded gently. "Do not thank me. Just carry it forward." Louis Carter stepped closer. "The board wants to create a new inclusion policy. They want to name it after you." She shook her head. "Name it after the principle, not the person. Call it the respect standard. Let it belong to everyone." A quiet ripple of agreement passed through the lobby. The morning light warmed the marble floor, turning the space golden again, not polished, but reborn. Danielle looked toward the cameras above. "Keep the footage," she said. "Show it to every new hire. Let them see how easily bias hides behind manners and how quickly it collapses when truth walks in." Then she faced the doors. "All my life, I was told to wait for permission, for opportunity, for fairness. But waiting is not growth, it is surrender. And I stopped surrendering a long time ago." She stepped into the sunlight, her silhouette sharp against the city's glow. "Power does not make you worthy," she said softly. "Worth makes you powerful." The glass doors closed behind her with a whisper, leaving only the quiet hum of a building forever changed, a place that had just learned what leadership truly looks like.